Okay, another week's lesson here. We're gonna get started. We are doing a patch rundown, so we're talking about the best comps, meta comps, and legends on today's patch. So right now we're on patch 13.16. The patch was yesterday on Wednesday, so this will be going out on the Thursday. And yeah, a lot has changed, so let's get straight into it. If anyone has any big questions, please leave them for the end, or for the end. If you have any questions for the slide at hand, then either just type it in the open chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that on my second monitor, or just unmute your mic and we could discuss it there. So what are we going to talk about today? So there's been some pretty big meta shifts. So we'll talk about the big major ones before we even get into the comps. We're going to start off with our S and A tier comps. B and C, I might talk about them at the end, but B and C, you're not really looking to play those unless you're in a really specific spot. So maybe I'll touch upon that after the niche comps. But we'll talk about the S and A ones, the general comps of legends. So that's like Aphelios, top of the line now. Shurima also top of the line. And then our A tiers, our challengers, Sorcs, Noxus generally. And then the really niche ones where you need a really specific spot with a +1 or something like that is going to be Garen reroll, which has emerged as a new comp. Some have played this before, but now it's actually pretty good if it's not contested. And then Rek'sai. We're going to end off with some final tips. Maybe I'll talk about some B and C, and then Q&A. Okay, so let's talk about the shifts. What happened? So there's been a lot of nerfs. If you've been playing, you might have noticed last set there has been some units and some traits that might have been a bit stronger than the other ones. So now they've been toned down. The first one, the Ornn Legend. So now this first nerf up here, the Portable Forge, where you have an option to open up his forge items and then pick 1 out of 3. It has now been reduced to 2 on stage 2-1. On stage 3-2, it's now been it's still at 3 now, and then at stage 4-2, if you pick Portable Forge, you actually got 4 options to choose from. So now the choices are based off of stage. What does that mean? On stage 2-1, if we take it, the gold augment for Ornn Legend, you only have 2 choices, and that is not good. So Ornn has really fallen out of the meta. I rarely see Ornn in my games now. I do not recommend taking this legend. There's much better ones to take now. Zeri Plazon also nerfed. Urgot got nerfed, his shield amount and his damage. Zeri's damage got nerfed as well. So these are the big 2 4-cost units in the Zerizon comp. Also the actual mods. So the Zeri robotic arm mod got nerfed. Urgot's adaptive force or adaptive implant did get buffed a bit, but Zeri's the main damage. Urgot is basically just a secondary tank or like a hybrid tank damage. So this mini buff doesn't even compensate for the losses of this comp. So I don't recommend playing Zerizon anymore. If you get gifted a random Zeri 2 on like stage 3 or like early stage 4, then you can play it until you hit your Aphelios or your other options. But it's not great anymore. Ari also got nerfed. It's still playable. If you have RA2, of course, she's still going to pop off, but she's received 2 nerfs in a row now, patch back to back, and is just not as good as she used to be. Now let's move on to the buffs. So, Aphelios. Aphelios' last patch just got overshadowed by Zeri. If you had a Rageblade early, you're like, okay, if I hit Aphelios, fine, I'll play it, but I'm going to look for Zeri. Now it's the other way around. Aphelios is super good. He got buffed. The speed of his Moonlight Blast, like his ult, is increased, and then his AD ratios for his chakram got up by 2%, so that's really good. And then Shen also got buffed, so Shen is the main tank 4-cost tank of the Aphelios comp. We'll get into that in a second. His Ionia bonus got reduced, but then they increased his actual shield amount. So what they're trying to do here is make it so Shen can be playable in comps other than Ionia. So this is great. This is a comp that Ionia is not included. So this doesn't even matter for us in this Aphelios comp. And the self shield is nice. Also, he's bigger, so you might be wondering like, oh, does the size of units actually matter? Actually it does. So if you think like if an enemy action is ulting, if your Shen is big enough, it's like a body block, and then they will block more of the bullets or even all the bullets. The last big buff that we'll talk about is Shurima. So the Shurima Ascension bonus health. So whatever unit ascends, or if it's all of them, it's went from 30% to 33%. And then if you have Shurima 7, this Ascension bonus is increased by extra 5%. So plenty of stats here, more health. You even get more attack speed if you have Shurima 7. So Shurima is super good. Also, Azir got a mini buff. So tons of buffs, tons of nerfs. Let's get straight into the comps. So I'll talk about the S tier and the A tier comps first. First one is Aphelios. So what does Aphelios need? Aphelios is our 4-cost DPS ranged AD carry, and he needs a tanky frontline. So whatever comp you play, there's many ways to play the Aphelios comp. You need a frontline in all of them. Best install Aphelios. Some people think it's just Ginsu's plus whatever, but Aphelios differs from Zeri. Back then with Zeri, it actually is just Ginsu's plus whatever plus 2, but Aphelios needs Deathblade. More importantly, he needs attack damage. He doesn't have the gunner trait, unlike Zeri, where if she autos, she just gets 80, so that's fine. Aphelios doesn't though, so you need base AD in order to do any damage. So Ginsu's for that ramping attack speed, Deathblade for your AD, and then you can have a +1. This +1 could be anything: Guardbreaker, Giant Slayer, Titans, Sniper's Focus. Sniper's Focus is really good. Titans is also really good. Giant Slayer, Guardbreaker, it's okay. If you don't have Deathblade, Titans acts as like a mini substitute, because I think it is like 50 AD once it's fully stacked, which is close to Deathblade's 66. So it's not bad. However, you have to get up to that 50. So definitely try to get Deathblade first. These two is his BIS. As I mentioned, you need attack damage, so Deathblade for sure. Titans is good. You can also just find AD from your augments. So if you're playing Aphelios, which I do recommend, if you see any augments like you have my sword, long distance pal, social distancing, Aphelios really benefits from this, so be sure to look out for that. As I mentioned, there's plenty of ways to play this comp. You can play it with Bastion, Failure, or Flex. I'll talk about all different sorts of this. And then best legends play. Vladimir is really good with this comp, so is Poro. Vladimir, so the Vlad comp, or the Vlad legend in general, is really good now. Transfusion has always been good, and now that Ascension got buffed, that just makes Vladimir even better. So if you have a bad opener, definitely take Transfusion for Vlad, and then you can either open Force or just make as much econ as possible while killing units. Your second augment is Battle Ready. However, Battle Ready for Vladimir is not good, so look for the second or third option. Take like this long distance pals, you have my sword, social distancing, anything like this. So Combat Augment as your second one. And then the last one, Ascension. Ascension is great. Aphelios is a ramping, stalling AD composition, so after 15 seconds when Ascension kicks, hopefully your tanky frontline is tanky enough with either a 4 Bastion or Sejuani Rek'sai, or I'll talk about the Flex one. Our Ascension will kick, our Ginsu's will be ramped up. If we have our Titans will be ramped up, and we'll be crushing the board from there. Pearl's also good. With Pearl, you could take an economic augment as your first one, is perfectly fine. And then your second and third one, you want to be taking combat. Pearl gives you the highest chance of seeing combat augments, and there's plenty of OP combat augments. Or sorry, not OP, I just say they're good. As like these I've mentioned before. Also like there's a couple other really good ones. So Pearl gives you the highest chance of seeing combat augments that are non-legend tailored. So that's why Pearl is good. Okay, so the first comp up here, this is going to be the Bastion Aphelios comp. So as the name suggests, it's Bastion frontline and then Aphelios main carry. So Maokai, Kassadin, Taric, Shen. Kassadin will come out for Cassante, but you might not hit him all the time. So that's why Kassadin is a staple. Aphelios is our main carry. As you see, Rageblade plus Deathblade. We have Soraka, and then our two other units here are Flex. Senna and Heimerdinger, you will not always hit on 8, especially you won't be hitting this on 7 if you're rolling down on 7 if you need to stabilize. So substitutes for this, I'll talk about more in our Flex guide, but this can just be like it could be like Alessandra plus Ashe or an Ashe plus Sejuani. Basically just play your strongest board. However, once you do hit that Senna Heimerdinger, it is better. Senna will be, not only does it provide like attack speed and shield as Shadow Isles, which syncs up here, and then Heimerdinger for that Sunder. If you don't have Last Whisper, ideally don't make Last Whisper on Aphelios. It is better to at least just play an Ashe, put Ashe beside Aphelios, and then give her a Last Whisper, and then she'll shoot and hit the same units that Aphelios is hitting, so that works out. But this is Bastion. This is probably the most capped out version of Aphelios. Another really good one is just Deadeye Freljord. So because we're playing Freljord, we don't have to worry about the Last Whisper. As you see, the exact same best in slot. Rageblade plus Deathblade plus 1. We play 4 Deadeye, 3 Freljord frontline, and then a Scion or Vi. It could also be a Shen 2. Doesn't really matter. You just want to have this as tanky a unit as possible. With, of course, Vi, and then Shen is better, and then Scion is better. Actually, Shen 2 is pretty comparable with Scion 2. It really depends who you have your items on. If it is on Sejuani, then perhaps Scion is better. But if you have a Shen 2 before you hit Sejuani 1, then you go up the Bastion road instead. But this one's really good. You don't need Last Whisper because you have Freljord, and it works out pretty well. So these are the best two comps right now. But ideally, sometimes you don't hit this, right? Sometimes you don't hit the Scion, sometimes you don't hit the Urgot 2 or the Sen of Heimerdinger. What do? Maybe you hit Aatrox's. Well, here we have the Aphelios Flex. It's basically just playing the strongest board possible, still with Aphelios carry. You see the exact same items on him. And basically just play the strongest board possible while having some sort of Sunder. So this is the first one. If you hit like Aatrox, if you do have Shen, as I mentioned, is a super good unit now. A little bit bigger and extra shield. So once again, this is just our board playing as strong as we can. This is the Aatrox version, making sure that Aatrox is right beside your strongest tank. So then once he dies, he gives the strongest tank the Darken passive, gives them a bit more HP. And then that tank is going to live for another 4 seconds probably, so then Aatrox will spawn once they die, and it's just a train reaction. Aatrox gives so much tank towards the team, and you actually don't really want to be itemizing him with any items unless it's Aatrox 2, because you want him to die. So this is the first one. There's not really a name for it. It's just flex. The second one is also just flex. This is if you hit like a Nasus 2 and you have items for Urgot, then you could play like 2 Juggernauts, and then you have Zon for Urgot. Adaptive Implant is the best on him, and it just got buffed, so it's pretty good. Urgot is just Titans, Bloodthirster +1. So I included these because, as mentioned, you're not always going to hit your best installed boards. So sometimes you just make do with what you got. You don't make sure to pick up Nasuses, Urgots, Shens on your roll down, especially legendaries like Scion and Aatrox. Okay, so that's Aphelios. I highly recommend that right now. I'll talk about actually I already explained I think everything. The next one is Vertical Shurima. So 7 Shurima got a buff, Azir got a buff, and Shurima in general just got a buff. So plenty of buffs. If you are to play the 7 Shurima version, you need Shurima +1. So this will be you're either playing the Earth Legend or the Bandle Cafeteria portal, where it just gives you a free spat, and then spat plus rod will give you this Shurima. And this comp is really good. It's a stall magic composition, stall magic damage composition. So the longer the fight lasts, the stronger your units gets. And you want this fight to last as long as possible because the stronger you'll be. First one is Azir, best in slots. So Rageblade, Gunblade. Rageblade is only good once you have a tanky front line. However, with this comp, you do. So Rageblade is good. If you didn't have a tanky front line, then something like a RFC is better because it just gives you flat attack speed. But Rageblade, Gunblade +1. This +1 can be anything. Shiv, Jewel Gauntlet, Giant Slayer, Guardbreaker. Any AP item is fine. And then in this comp, you want to be putting your tank items on Nasus. Now Nasus, he wants just pure tank items. Bramble, Dragon's Claw. He does do some damage, but it's actually not that much. It's better to just have him as a pure tank and let your backliners just do more damage as well. Plus, you'll be taking most of the time Vlad, and you'll be getting Ascension, so more tank actually equals more damage in this case. So Bramble, Dragon's Claw, Warmogs. If you don't have these, then like Bloodthirster, Titans, Death's Defiance, Eternal Winter, these are all suitable on Nasus. And make sure to same side your Nasus as your Azir, because if you have these two swapped, then if Nasus is on this side and they kill the Renekton, the melee units or range will just start attacking your Azir. And there's no point of tanks if your main damage is dead. Best legends to play with this: Vlad, Earth, Poro. Vlad, same thing as the Aphelios comp. Transfusion is just so good, and because this is a stall composition, Ascension is best because you're going to be stalling. Ascension will kick in, and then you'll do that extra damage. Earth is good. It'll give you that Shurima +1. You can use Teemo to really cater your odds. And then Poro just gives you as much combat augments as possible. Combat here is also really good. Yeah, it's just good comp. Vertical 7 Shurima, tons of buffs. You have plenty of healing. If your opponent, especially if your opponent doesn't have any healing reduction, then your Nasus is not dying, and your team is just going to keep scaling up. Okay, next one, it still includes Shurima, but it's not vertical. It's the Lux Azir comp. So Lux, I think technically it is a little bit of a buff that she received. I'll explain why in a second. This is also a stall magic damage composition. Similar to the last one, we have Azir carrying the same type of items, Rageblade, Gunblade +1. We'll be also duo carrying Lux. So Lux is going to have blue buff plus Jewel Gauntlet, and then you're going to give her the last Radiant item. And any Radiant item on her is fine, or is good, except for Morello. Morello is the worst one. The reason why is Lux does a lot of single target burst damage, and she basically just like DPS one-shots down a enemy unit, while Morello, you want to hit as many units as possible to apply it, but she's just hitting one unit, so that's why Morello is bad. The other ones are great though, and then Azir is our other carry. And this board, minus Teemo, is going to be the level 7 board that you want to get. So if you need to stabilize on 4-1 or even 3-5, level 7 and then roll down for this board. Oh, that's not Teemo. This is Teemo. So roll down for this board, minus Teemo. Teemo is an open slot. Multicaster doesn't matter that much, and then it's just one extra strategist. Make sure you put your tank items on Noxus. So this is once again either your Warmrocks, Bramble, Declaw, could also be your Titans or your Bloodthirster, and then put like mana items or even Spark on Jarvan. Jarvan is not an actual tank, or he's not a self-sustaining tank. He's just a CC like frontline unit. So putting tank items on him isn't because he's tanky. You just want him to cast again. So it's better just put mana items on him. Also the Spark, since he's going to jump into the biggest clump, he'll apply Spark to all those units, and your ally units will be able to capitalize on that. Keep talking about Spark, keep talking about Shiv. You need some sort of shred for this composition. It's AP, or it's magic damage, so make sure that you have magic resist shred. And then best legends, Vlad, for the exact same reasons as the previous two. Urf is good to give you either an extra like strategist, extra Shurima. I don't recommend it too much, but it'll help out with your early game, and then you can play more flexibly. Five strategist is actually pretty good, so Urf is okay for that. And then Poro once again is just best chances to see good econ augments, best chances to see good combat augments. Okay, there's two types of ways you can position for this. So as I mentioned, your two main carries are Lux and Azir, right? So if you're against AoE enemies, so if the enemy has a Jarvan or I'm just thinking about Jarvan right now. The enemy has a Jarvan, then make sure to spread out your carries so they don't all get killed. However, if you are against enemies like a challenger board where it's like all single target damage, then make sure that you clump your AP carries, and then Lux actually gives mana shred, so they'll be attacking the same units and they'll be able to burst on one side and then hopefully burst on the rest of the board. Okay, so that's Lux Azir. Next one is 6 Challenger. This is one of my favorite comps. I think it's so much fun. Yasuo and Kalista got buffed this patch. Yasuo's health got increased. He deals more damage on from his AD ratios, and even his AP ratios got increased as well. So if you have items like Trinity Force, then you get even more damage from that AP ratio. Kalista also got buffed. Her Pierce and Ren spear damage got increased by a little bit. You might think it's like, oh, very minuscule. However, this is per auto attack, and she auto attacks a lot, so that's really good. Make sure that you no longer build RFC on Yasuo. I always thought that it wasn't that good. Like, you'd snipe a carry, but most of the time you can't one-shot it right off the bat, unless it's a 1-star and you have like 80 plus Infinity Edge. But his ultimate no longer scales with attack range, so make sure to no longer build RFC on him. It's just not good. Okay, so what is Challengers, right? Fast-paced mixed damage comp, both 80 damage from Yasuo and AP damage from your Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa best in slot, Shojin, Jewel Gauntlet +1. This +1 could be anything, just some sort of damage item, but you definitely need Shojin for that attack speed, or for that mana generation, and Jewel Gauntlet to get that damage. Yasuo best in slot is you need Edge Knights +2. Edge Knight is for sure, he's going to jump into the middle of the team, he's ramping up, he's doing damage. However, he's very squishy, he's a melee unit, and he'll get popped like a balloon if he gets caught by anything. So Edge Knight getting that aggro drop is super good. And then any other AD items, i.e. Titans, Last Whisper, Runons, Death Defiance is really good for him. Well, as I mentioned, you won't be taking the Ornn Legend augment ideally. However, there is still like the Ornn region. I forget what it's called. I know it's a failure region, but sometimes it drops you an Aura item, so Death Defiance is good like this, even Obsidian Cleaver if you get the same option. So this is a level 7 board. You'll be stuck on level 7 most of the time, just because your +1 on level 8 is not very impactful, like except for like Aatrox, but that's not guaranteed. So you'll either be going for this board on 3-5 if you're rich, or 4-1 if you're not rich, and then make sure you stay level 7 until both Yasuo and Kai'Sa are 2-starred, and then from there you can start pumping. If you lose a round and you're low HP, then you might as well just roll for Shen 2, but if you're winning, then you could go 8 and then play an extra unit. In Challengers, if you have no open components are just like extra components lying on your bench. So if you just have if you have nothing here, then you have no open components, then always go for BF Sword. BF Sword can always be used. Edge Knight, BF Sword, Infinity Edge, BF Sword, Giant Slayer, BF Sword, Shojin, BF Sword. You need infinite BF Swords in this. You can even make a Death Blade on Yasuo if necessary. So always go for a sword if you have no open components. The best legend to go with a challengers is Poro. With challengers, you just want any sort of combat augment you can get. Long distance pals, tons of gifts, gifts from the fallen, defensive dash, idealism, just any sort of combat augments. It's fast paced. You just want to be doing as much damage as you can, as fast as you can, even though your enemy is great. So yeah, that's challengers. Super good. Tons of buffs. I'd highly recommend this comp. Okay, next one, 6 sorcerers. Just like the Shurima, you want a +1, so you could either get this from Earth Legend or Battle Cafeteria. This is a fast-paced magic damage comp as opposed to the stall magic damage comps we've been talking about with the Shurimas. The reason why is here you have so much burst playing with Vel'Koz, and you're just trying to one-shot the enemy board as fast as possible. Lux, best in slot, stays the exact same. Blue buff Jewel Gauntlet +1 Radiant item. And then either your Swain or your Taric, you want to have sorry about that. You want to have either Spark and Sunfire +1. And then there's many ways you could play this. You could go, now that Vel'Koz got buffed, his damage has increased actually by a lot. Also, his like all his bugs are fixed. Before, if Vel'Koz like was ulting this target, but the target was moving, this ult would fizzle out. But now that is fixed, so he actually is guaranteed to do his damage now. You can go for 3-star Vel'Koz, slow roll on level 7, or same with Swain 3. Swain 3 also got buffed. So these are really good options. Eventually you're going to replace Orianna with Ahri, and then add a Heimerdinger on level 8 for his turret. Similar to the Challenger comp, if you have no open components, you always go for Rod and Sorcerers. You can make infinite Rods, you could do Spark, Jewel Gauntlet, another Jewel Gauntlet. You could do Archangels. You could do Rabadons. This is all great. Best legends for Sorcerer is Poro and Urf. Poro, once again, your combat augments, and then Urf for that Sorcs bat. I will iterate once again that you only play 6 Sorcerers if you have a +1. If you don't have +1 Sorc to put on that Sona, then just play 4 Sorcs instead. Okay, I think this might be the last one of the S and A tier. Noxus reroll, so Samira got nerfed heavily, but Darius and Katarina weren't touched at all. So now instead of doing Samira or Cassiopeia reroll, you're just going to be slow rolling on level 7 for your Darius 3-star and your Katarina 3-star. This is a fast-paced mixed damage comp, so you're trying to kill the enemy board as fast as you can, and you have both AD and AP damage. Darius best in slot, honestly, is a very flexible unit, but you basically need 2 things. You need healing and you need damage. So Bloodthirster is a good healing item, and then you need 2 damage items. Can be anything: Hodge, Titan's Affinity Edge, Last Whisper, Deathblade. Death's Defiance is really good on Darius. Death's Defiance plus Titans is a great combo because the bleed effect procs the Titans, so he stacks up really fast. Also, Obsidian Cleaver is also really good on Darius. Sunder and Shred, so also helps out the Katarina. Katarina best in slot is a lot simpler. Spark Jewel Gauntlet +1, and your +1 is just some damage item or Gunblade. This is going to be slow rolling on level 7 for Darius and Cat 3. If you're contested, then you just push levels and play your strongest board. On level 7, you're going to be adding a Nasus for Juggernaut with Darius. And yeah, so best legends Poro. Total Domination is the best Noxus augment. Having that execute already on so much damage is just incredibly good. Know your enemies tons of damage. Unified resistance. So Noxus gives HP, attack damage, and ability power. So the only stat you're really missing, or defensive stat, is resistance, or armor and magic resist. So you get the health from Noxus, you get armor and magic resist from Unified, and that health, armor, and magic resist work together multiplicatively to become more tanky, and your units just get really unkillable. If you have a Noxus bat, then you just drop the Cassiopeia and you Noxus your Nasus. Cassiopeia is the worst one here. Samira at least provides armor shred, and you want to make sure that she is on the same side as the Darius. Okay, I think that's all the S and A tier comps and their legends. We're going to talk about the niche ones now. So the first one is Garen reroll. This comp is a lot of fun. I'll say that. Garen got buffed, Galio got buffed, Lux got buffed. The reason why I think it's a Lux buff, although the Lux cast can't go under 0 magic resist anymore, if you are at least playing maybe it's a buff for just the 6 Sorc Lux comp. In one cast, if you kill something, she turns a lot faster now, so she could hit someone else really fast. So if you are able to one-shot your target right off the bat, then it's buff. But if you're stuck on some target with a Dragon's Claw, then it's a nerf. But regardless, Garen and Galio are a lot more buffed. This is a stall mixed damage comp. Garen best of the slot. Bloodthirster is for sure. You need Bloodthirster no matter what. The other one is subjective, so either Titans or Rageblade, and then you leave your Radiant item on him. Lux best in slot, you're going to have blue buffed plus Jewel Gauntlet as usual, and then your other Radiant item, you'll be playing 5 Demacia, so you get 2 elites, with Garen being your first one and Lux being your other one. Okay, so for this comp, you're going to want Garen 3, so slow roll on 7 for Garen or Sona 3, and push levels if you're contested. Sona, she doesn't deal that much damage, however, her cast gives attack speed, and attack speed will buff up the Garen spin, so you just want her to cast as much as possible. And then either roll for this board if you're rich on 3-5, or if you're not rich, then roll for this board on 4-1. You have to take Mastery with this comp. You're taking either pumping up 2 or 3, straight into a combat augment on your second one, and then your third one, no matter what, you have to take out to go fast. The way this comp works, pumping up, every round your team gets a little bit more attack speed. So every round your board is getting a little bit stronger. Your second augments can just be any combat one because Mastery is battle ready, and as I mentioned, battle ready is not good. And the last one, gotta go fast. That's an augment that helps your units generate more mana and also increases their like walking speed. So what happens is if Garen's like spinning and then he kills his target and he like goes to his next one, he'll still be spinning and he'll be like Beyblading like really fast. So basically what happens is Garen just like spins over the entire board, kills everyone, he's healing, he's dealing damage, and he's like pretty tanky once you get 2 Juggernauted. If you don't have Aatrox, just play like Nasus instead. Even like Tark is fine. But yeah, this is good. Eventually, you're going to play Heimerdinger as well and get 3 Yordle in for even more attack speed. So this is the first one. If you really want to play this comp, then just take Mastery and force it. I will warn you though that if you're contested, it might not be too fun. But if you're not contested, it could be a lot of fun. So do this at your own risk. The next one is Rek'sai reroll, so only play this if you have Bruiser +1. Maybe you get this from Earth. Stall mixed damage comp with your Rek'Sai plus your either Lissandra or Kaisa. Rek'Sai best in slot is Bloodthirsty Titans +1. This could either be a second Titans, especially if you have Gargantuan Resolves, where your Titans can go to 35 stack, Infinity Edge, or Death's Defiance. Dual carry either your Lissandra 3 or your Kaisa 2, and slow roll on 7 for Rek'Sai or Lissandra 3. Once again, with all these boards on level 7, if you are rich, this is either rich healthy or rich unhealthy. You level 7 on 3-5 and you roll for this board to stabilize. If you're like not rich but you're not like unhealthy, then just wait for 4-1 after the wolves. And then Vladimir, Poro, or if these are all good. With Bruiser, Transfusion synergizes super well. The more HP you get, and then that like bonus HP percent just equals to more HP. So Transfusion is super good. You're also like really tanky frontline, right? So your Ascension is gonna proc like easily after 15 seconds. Poro just combat augments, and then Earth equals Bruiser Spat equals Lissandra. Okay, so I think that's everything. I'll talk about like B and C tier comps in a second, but just final tips. If you're playing the Vlad Legend, most of the time you're going to be taking Transfusion, especially if it's Prismatic Transfusion. It's absolutely broken. It gives you 100 right off the bat, and then 5 for every units or every tactician HP gone. So that's one quick mass 100 plus like basically 500, because 5 times 10, but really it's 5 times 99, so it's like 495. So that's basically like a lot of HP, right? Like 595. So plenty of HP for every unit on your board. So you're most of the time take Transfusion. My point is look for your econ regions. So either like Glass Industry, Scuttle Puddle. Targum Prom is actually your best one, the one where you get to 40 HP and then you get a gift, because early game you're just trying to make as much money as possible. Like while it's like econ is better than HP at this point, so if you have to open fort to make 30 in order to make the next 40, then you're just open forting. It's fine to just like absolutely get crushed because you're getting your transfusion value, and then with Targon Prime, once you hit 40 HP, you just level and you send it. Your next one, don't take battle ready unless you have to. It's just not that great of an augment. There's better ones. If you're playing Earth, Teemo is ideal. He's multicaster, he's strategist, and he's Yordle. And multicaster and Yordle are not craftable or elusive emblems. So the only one available is strategist. And strategist isn't even that bad. You just play 5 strategists. So this is 3 traits, and the only one available is a good one. So Teemo is a great unit to put on your board to cater traits for Earth. No Shiv on Lux. She barely auto attacks, she just casts most of the time. And then this one is a bait. Infinity Edge is just not that great of an item. It's good on like Darius, but on everyone else it's not that good. It's good on Akshan as well, but it's not good on Aphelios. The reason why is Infinity Edge is only good on units that where they deal most of their damage from their ability, not their auto attacks. So unless you have some bonus AD early, I really recommend do not slam Infinity Edge. Even just Guard Breaker is fine, and play around the sword. Okay, B and C to her comps. B and C in no particular order. I say like Tristana reroll. I think this is like pretty good, or like it's okay in certain spots. Tristana reroll is good. What else? Like Action reroll, you definitely need like Collector, I'd say, Runons, and like Infinity Edge or like Deathblade. But I probably wouldn't force this. Aphelios is just so much better. And then I don't know. This is about it. Like I would say like there's not too many comps that are ideal to play in B and C tier. I'll just reiterate that like the best ones that I recommend right now, Aphelios and Shurima. And then these three are just super solid. I'd say like these are like easily top 4able, but it's hard to top 1 against like these two. And then in certain spots, Garen or Rek'sai. So that's been everything for today's class. This has been a meta review for this patch 13.16, and thanks everyone for watching.